All right, latest NFL headlines. Let's start things off with the bombshell that came out last night. Aqib Talib is headed to Hollywood. He's going to play for the LA Rams. That will become official on March 14th when the new league year begins. So the Rams have been quite active. Am I wrong about that one? So the deal about Aqib Talib, we've been hearing reports for weeks now about where he could be headed. There was talk that the 49ers were looking into Talib. There was talk that maybe he wanted to go back to New England and reunite with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and company. And reports suggested that Talib preferred New England because of Belichick and the Los Angeles Rams because of, well, his former defensive coordinator out there in Denver in Wade Phillips. He is now the DC for LA. So Talib, a 5-time Pro Bowler, can still play at a high level. The only problem about Talib with the Broncos is, or was now, he's not very cheap. And Denver had to make some difficult roster decisions to be able to make a run at Kirk Cousins. There you see, Talib is owed $12 million in 2018, $8 million in 2019. Meanwhile, the Rams, oh my goodness, what is going on in LA? We're talking Aaron Donald on that front line, Mark Barron on that second level. Then you got LaMarcus Joyner at safety. He's got the franchise tag. John Johnson had a great campaign in his rookie season a year ago. Marcus Peters is coming on over from Kansas City. Insert Aqib Talib in that secondary too. And there is reason to believe that the LA Rams, coming off a season where they were the #1 scoring offense, will be a top seed once the 2018 playoffs come around. Unbelievable stuff. And I ask this, which team is the favorite in the NFC West? Are the Rams now the favorite to win the division? Or maybe they always have been in your eyes. I mean, of course, they did win the division last year. Perhaps they're even bigger favorites now, or maybe you're still buying into the San Francisco 49er hype with the big-time contract that Jimmy Garoppolo got, and then you, of course, have Pierre Garçon coming back from injury, and the 49ers are likely to be very active in free agency because of the amount of salary cap space that they have. But for the Los Angeles Rams, they are seriously going to be a force next season. I'll talk more about them at the end of the show and tell you why I think they're going to be a really tough out in the NFC West and in the NFL in general. Meanwhile, for Denver, I'll talk a little bit more about Chris Harris Jr. He is going to stay in that secondary. I'll get to that headline later in the show. Staying in the secondary, though, Richard Sherman. Reports suggest that he is expected to be cut today by the Seattle Seahawks. This coming from the Seattle Times. So we will likely have some sort of breaking news here today about Richard Sherman being cut. And this is very much expected. Falls in line with an earlier report that Sherman would be released in the coming days, that coming from NFL Network a couple of days ago. And it's unexpected because the Seahawks are in one of the worst salary cap situations, and it's unsurprising that Richard Sherman is going to get cut because the Seahawks would save $11 million off their salary cap. And oh, by the way, Richard Sherman coming off an Achilles injury. So the Seattle Seahawks are going through a defensive turnover, if you will, and Sherman could still theoretically come back at a lesser salary, but I think that's unlikely and, quite frankly, awkward because Richard Sherman is representing himself throughout all of these negotiations. He doesn't have an agent, guys. So he has to go into the front office and talk with the Seattle Seahawks brass here and say, oh, yeah, I don't deserve a pay cut. I'm still a good player. Meanwhile, the other side of the table is saying, well, we kind of believe that you should get paid less or else we're going to release you. So it's just not very good. And look, even if Richard Sherman were to take the pay cut, I feel like there would still be a sour taste in his mouth after the fact and probably wouldn't be good for Richard Sherman, Seattle Seahawks relations going forward. So in more turnover, too, I'm hearing the Seahawks are expected to cut Jeremy Lane, a cornerback as well, which would save $4.75 million off the cap. So you see DeMarco Murray. He's going to get cut as well. So Murray is due to make $6.5 million in 2018. Again, this is hardly surprising. Back-to-back, hardly surprising situations here. With Richard Sherman expected to be cut, DeMarco Murray, he is a sure thing. This went down, so the Titans save a nice chunk of change here by releasing DeMarco Murray because there is no dead money involved. So Murray was due to make $6.5 million in 2018. The Titans saved that amount by cutting him. So here is what Titans general manager John Robinson said in a recent statement about DeMarco Murray. Quote, "I want to thank DeMarco for his contributions as a Titan, not only for what he did on the field, but also in the locker room and in the community. He was a pro in every facet, and we wish him and his family the best moving forward." That's Titans general manager John Robinson there. And DeMarco said back in January, he's very confident he can be a lead back in the National Football League. But here's the problem. He hit that 30-year-old mark, and I think we all know what can happen when that occurs as a running back. Your production drops off a little bit, and we saw that in the evidence. His production dropped off in terms of yards per carry from 4.4 to 3.6 from 2016 to 2017. Perhaps he goes to a Seahawks or 49ers, a couple of running back needy teams out there. I'm just not so sure he can be a three-down back in the NFL. Now, Murray is the only NFL player with 4,000-plus rushing yards, 30-plus rushing touchdowns since 2014. But it's clear that he's slowing down a bit, and I think the Titans realized that last year as they started to usher in Derrick Henry a little more and usher out DeMarco Murray. Last season, Murray had 176 carries for 744 yards and 5 touchdowns. He's a free agent. He is now searching for his next destination. Speaking of running backs, I am hearing that Saquon Barkley could go #1 overall in the 2018 NFL Draft, and Vegas has now weighed in. Vegas favors Barkley to be the #1 overall pick going to the Cleveland Browns. He's the favorite at plus 170, meaning a $100 bet on Saquon Barkley going first overall would result in a basically $170 payoff. You see Sam Darnold there as well, plus 240. Josh Allen at plus 400. Mayfield at plus 550. Also, Rosen is plus 700. Not a lot of faith by Vegas in terms of Josh Rosen going #1 overall. It's kind of surprising there, although he didn't have a great combine. How about this one? If you're really feeling like gambling, the odds of any player other than Barkley and the 4 quarterbacks I mentioned going first overall is plus 1,500. So we're talking no Allen, no Mayfield, no Rosen, no Darnold, no Barkley. Somebody else, apparently. Bradley Chubb, #1 overall. The odds of that going down, plus 1,500. By the way, those odds roughly translate to a 33% chance of Barkley going first overall, 23% chance for Darnold, 17 for Allen, down to 14 for Mayfield, 10% for Rosen, and a minuscule 3% for any other player. So Saquon Barkley could perhaps go #1 overall in the 2018 NFL Draft. Vegas certainly thinks so. All right, next headline here. Tom Brady shaved his head for a good cause, and we have a nice little picture to show you as well. So Brady, of course, not a great February because of the Super Bowl loss, but he is kicking off March in a really great way. Raised $7.5 million for cancer research, benefits the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, and Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker was in attendance as well. So Tom Brady, we have the picture for you, shaving his head for a cause, and I want to say he has done this before just from a stylistic standpoint. Like, he has shaved his head out of choice. My producer, Harris Rubenstein, host of the Patriots Report, is confirming that. So we have seen the locks of Tom Brady from like the 2009 season. We've also seen the shaved head as well. So Tom Brady with a nice little touch there by benefiting the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, raising $7.5 million for cancer research. There you see it's very close to his heart as well. His mom was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2016. All right, let's get to the next headline here, and this one is something that we have seen before. Derrius Guice this time has been the victim of really weird questioning at the NFL Combine. So the NFL has launched an investigation after a team at the Combine reportedly asked Derrius Guice if he likes men. You can't make this stuff up, folks. An NFL spokesperson, Brian McCarthy, released a statement saying, quote, "We are looking into the matter. A question such as that is completely inappropriate and wholly contrary to league workplace policies." And Guice revealed this information on a SiriusXM interview this week, saying how teams will ask uncomfortable questions to test a player's reaction. He also referenced how one team asked if his mom sells herself. Like, what? This is part of the Combine culture? And another report came out, and this one is very much understandable, but also kind of falls in line with this trying to throw you off theme. Baker Mayfield, walking in and interviewing with John Dorsey, GM of the Browns, was reportedly asked about the arrest right off the bat. So, of course, when he got arrested when he was a student at Oklahoma, that one is definitely more understandable than what Derrius Guice was asked, because it's just way out of line. And, you know, we've seen this before with Eli Apple. He went through a similar situation in 2016. So there clearly is some sort of pattern with all of this. And the NFL also said back then with Eli Apple that they were going to look into the matter, and nothing really came out of it other than an apology. So it'll be interesting to see if there's more action by way of the NFL this go around in terms of punishment or some sort of change, because I think it has to happen. So Derrius Guice going through some of that questioning, and it looked like he wasn't too affected by it in his interview with SiriusXM. He kind of mentioned it matter-of-factly, but obviously the NFL should investigate this and see what happens from there. All right, next headline, and it's an update on Jarvis Landry, wide receiver for the Dolphins. He has officially signed the franchise tender worth $15.9 million, and at least until the Dolphins trade him, he will be earning that much money. So the general understanding was Landry would accept the tag and not fight it at all. That was kind of the general reporting out there, so this is hardly surprising news. But obviously it is one step in the direction of Jarvis Landry being traded to another team out there. And reports obviously indicated that Landry got permission from the Miami Dolphins leadership to go out and seek and facilitate an NFL trade with him involved. And again, a trade can become official once the new league year begins on March 14th. The Miami Herald has reported that no trade is imminent, but there are plenty of wide receiver needy teams out there, such as the Ravens, such as the Bears, and Landry, I think, guys, is going to be one of the more fascinating offseason NFL storylines, especially at the wide receiver position. Him and Allen Robinson included. So Allen Robinson did not get the franchise tag. He's going to test the open market, so he's more of a free agency kind of side of things. But for Jarvis Landry, he's more of the trade side of things, which I think is going to be very interesting. And so with that, I do have some teams to monitor that could perhaps grab Jarvis Landry. I'm going to count you down here. I'm going to start off with the Buffalo Bills. And everybody in the comments section will probably scream at me, there's no way the Miami Dolphins will trade within the AFC East. Look, guys, I totally get it, but the Buffalo Bills have the trade capital to lure the Dolphins, maybe, to trade away Jarvis Landry. Buffalo obviously in need of a top-tier wide receiver. We'll see what Kelvin Benjamin can do next season, but last year, their top wide receiver was Deontay Thompson. That's a major yikes for me. And I think Jarvis Landry would be a fantastic complement to Kelvin Benjamin. So watch out for the Buffalo Bills in the Jarvis Landry sweepstakes. Jarvis Landry, could he head to the San Francisco 49ers? We know wide receiver is a need for San Fran. All right, 49ers fans, pause for a second. I get it. You have Trent Taylor in the slot. He's a good player, showed some fine flashes in 2017. But if you have the opportunity to acquire Jarvis Landry, are you going to pass up on it? Because the 49ers have the salary cap space to eat up Landry's contract, and Landry obviously won't be cheap for many of these teams. But still, the Niners can afford him, and the Niners could also trade away a third-round pick, which is around the range of Landry's value. That's my baseline for Jarvis in terms of trades. It's probably a third-round pick. So San Francisco 49ers, a team to monitor for Jarvis. Let's check in with the Cleveland Browns. They're going to be in the hunt for many teams, or many players, I should say, out there, including Kirk Cousins, perhaps Allen Robinson, too. Look, if Cleveland gets Cousins and Jarvis Landry, I think that connection would be very, very solid. And oh, by the way, you got Josh Gordon on the outside. But let's say Cleveland goes ahead and drafts a Sam Darnold or a Baker Mayfield or Josh Rosen, whatever the case may be. Jarvis Landry would be a fantastic compliment for a rookie quarterback. Because what do rookie quarterbacks like? They like safety nets, they like their security blankets, they like their tight ends, but they also like catch guzzlers, if you will, like Jarvis Landry, who can catch over 114 or 110 receptions in a season. So he would be the perfect wide receiver for a rookie quarterback if the Browns go ahead and get him. And my understanding is he's not the priority for Cleveland. I know the Browns would like to grab Kirk Cousins, but I think they also feel that they're out of the Cousins sweepstakes. I think they're focusing on the draft and getting Barkley at number 1, perhaps a Darnold at number 4, and then going from there. But maybe they could be involved in this Jarvis Landry type of sweepstakes too. We'll see. They're on my list here. Let's go to number 2, the Chicago Bears. They need a wide receiver desperately. And I think Jarvis Landry would be a very nice fit for Mitchell Trubisky. Trubisky is a kind of an intermediate type of passer, short passer, very accurate at that, and would really fit well with how Landry plays the wide receiver position. So for the Chicago Bears, can you tell me a wide receiver on their roster that is actually good? Outside of Cam Meredith, I have faith in Cam Meredith as a good wide receiver. But you can't just rely on him to be the top guy for the Chicago Bears at that position, because you look at last season, Dontrell Inman wasn't very good. Kendall Wright wasn't good. He's an impending free agent. Josh Bellamy is an impending free agent. Is Kevin White ever going to see the football field again? So for Chicago, I think they bypass on Calvin Ridley in the draft. They decide to go elsewhere in the draft and then go ahead and acquire Jarvis Landry via the draft, or at least try to go out and grab him. So Chicago checks in as my number 2 team. My number 1 team for wide receiver Jarvis Landry, the Baltimore Ravens. Why is that? Joe Flacco loves his checkdowns. I talked about how rookie quarterbacks love their security blankets. So does Flacco. For years, he had Ray Rice. For years, he had Steve Smith. For years, he had Todd Heap and Dennis Pitta when he wasn't hurt. Well, maybe in 2018, it's Jarvis Landry. And the Ravens are going to have to make some salary cap casualties and cuts to kind of free up some salary cap space, maybe Jeremy Maclin, Ladarius Webb, etc. But still, I like the Baltimore Ravens as a team to monitor that could go out and grab Jarvis Landry. All right, let's go through some more headlines here, a little quicker fashion. Ryan Fitzpatrick, the gunslinger himself, back with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yes, according to Ian Rappaport, the Bucs are expected to bring back Fitzmagic. Yes, Fitzmagic. He started 3 games last year, went 2-1 in replacement for Jameis Winston because Winston had that AC joint injury last year. There you see the stat line for Fitzpatrick: 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, over 1,000 yards passing. I think it's a good move for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just in terms of an insurance standpoint, because you never really know with Jameis Winston. So Ryan Fitzpatrick coming back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Nice little play there. Zeke Elliott, he is thanking Jerry Jones for Jones's support. He actually took to Twitter yesterday to say thank you to Jerry. Of course, Jones paid a little over $2 million in legal fees to the NFL related to the Ezekiel Elliott suspension. There is the tweet. Much love and thanks to Mr. Jones for standing behind me, as he does for all his players. Great appreciation. Time to move on and look forward to a great season in 2018. By the way, why do I feel this whole ordeal with Roger Goodell basically fining but not fining Jerry Jones was him trying to get back at Jerry for Jones's apparent effort to find a successor to Roger Goodell? Do we remember when that report came out? I have a feeling Roger Goodell is still a little salty, a little salt going on right now with old Raj, and maybe that's why he wanted to fine but not fine but really fine Jerry Jones the $2 million in legal fees, because remember, this whole Ezekiel Elliott situation dragged on forever. And so Ezekiel Elliott certainly showing his appreciation for Jerry Jones there. Let's get to the next headline here. So Marquise Goodwin, extension for the San Francisco 49ers. It's a 3-year extension worth $20.3 million, $10 million of that guaranteed. I think it's a nice move. So a lot of people like to say that the 49ers have a need at wide receiver, and I understand that, but Marquise Goodwin was very, very solid a year ago, and they've been tied to Allen Robinson quite often. But this extension here for Goodwin kind of indicates to me that, like, John Lynch is saying to himself, hey, we like our wide receiving core. We don't want to, like, sell out for perhaps Allen Robinson or Jarvis Landry or anything like that. So you see the stat line in 2017, 56 receptions, 962 yards, 2 touchdowns. And the hype is real for San Francisco. Are the 49ers Super Bowl contenders? Let me know. Hit that heart for yes. Give me a like if you're just saying, whoa, easy on the Super Bowl train there, Cam Rogers. I'm throwing up my like on that one. Let me know here on Facebook Live as well as YouTube. If you're on YouTube, hit that heart or like in the comment section below. We certainly appreciate your participation. And I'm watching the broadcast on my laptop right now, getting some hearts, getting some likes flowing in. I'm getting great comments too. Breton chiming in. Emmanuel, thanks so much for watching the show. Matt Elliott, appreciate that. Dean watching the show as well. So we certainly always appreciate the support that flows in for the Cam Rogers Show. Hit that reaction though, heart for yes and a like for no in terms of the 49ers. So I talked about Chris Harris Jr. at the top of the show. He's going to remain in Denver. So the Broncos exercised their option on Chris Harris. So this makes sense to me. The big storyline with Denver was they weren't going to be able to afford all 3 of their cornerbacks in Aqib Talib, Harris Jr., and Bradley Roby. So they had to make a decision. Obviously, that decision was to trade Talib, bring back Harris Jr., and it's a $1.1 million payout ahead of Chris Harris Jr.'s $7.4 million salary for 2018. Harris has played every game for the Broncos over the last 5 seasons, so a nice veteran option there, and a guy that people don't really talk about, but he is a really, really solid corner. So good signing there for Denver, or I guess option, if you will. Chris Harris returning to the Mile High Stadium. All right, let's get to the next headline here. Jonathan Stewart is a free man because the Carolina Panthers cut him. He recently visited the Seattle Seahawks. In fact, it was yesterday that he was in the area. And the Seahawks are a team that's just trying to find a running back. Like, they have no run game whatsoever, and it's pretty brutal to see. So if Jonathan Stewart signs with the Seahawks, he will be joining a crowded backfield, including the following players: Chris Carson, C.J. Prosise, Mike Davis, Thomas Rawls, and J.D. McKissick. None of those players topped 240 yards last season. So you're telling me that the Seahawks are kind of desperate for a running back? Jonathan Stewart, by the way, from the Seattle area. He is coming off one of his worst campaigns, though, rushing for just 680 yards at a career-low 3.4 yards per carry. You really have to wonder if there's anything left in the tank here for Jonathan Stewart. Kind of a DeMarco Murray type situation, although it's much more dire for Jonathan Stewart. He's older than DeMarco. So that's the latest with Jay Stu. What's the deal with Baker Mayfield? So he's got a few visits coming up, folks. He will be visiting with the Browns, the Giants, and the Jets. I think Big Apple Baker could be a thing, folks. In fact, there's a 2 out of 3 chance for that to happen, according to the 3 visits that are coming up, talking about the Jets and the Giants. So, hey, who knows? Official visits with the Jets and Giants as well as the Browns, and all of them, of course, have picks inside the top 10. The Browns have 2 picks inside the top 5, and they could explore Baker Mayfield maybe at number 4 overall. The Dolphins and the Saints have made the same arrangements in terms of private workouts. So the Jets and Browns will be holding private workouts with Mayfield. The Dolphins and Saints will be doing the same, and the workouts will take place after Oklahoma's March 14th Pro Day. So Mayfield visiting with the Browns, Giants, and Jets. He's got private workouts coming up with the Jets, Browns, Dolphins, and Saints. Dolphins picking at number 11 overall. The Saints are way down there, so they're going to have to like trade up or something if they want to pray for Baker Mayfield to be drafted. But we'll see what happens. He's got some visits coming up, and it'll be interesting to monitor as we go forward toward the NFL draft. All right, LeVeon Bell. So, is he going to sit out the regular season? So, he is not going to sit out in 2018 during the regular season. However, he does plan to skip off-season workouts. So, yeah, with the Steelers exercising the franchise tag and no real deal in sight, LeVeon Bell is planning on not showing up to OTAs or training camp or anything like that, team meetings, etc. He recently said, quote, "I'm going to be in the facility week 1. It's going to be a rerun of last year. I'm not going to training camp. I'm not doing anything else. OTAs, anything extra, nothing like that." So the more this drags on, the more worse it gets for relations between Bell and the Steelers front office. So let me know in the comments section. I'm watching my broadcast on my laptop, like I said. Should LeVeon Bell sit out the entire off season? Because that is his plan. Does not want to show up to OTAs or training camp or anything like that. Should that make sense to you? I mean, should that go down? Let me know in the comments section here on Facebook Live as well as YouTube. And you may recall when LeVeon Bell returned for the regular season last year, he kind of struggled. And it was a slow start. And that's expected when you sit out the entire freaking offseason, LeVeon. So, look, if the Steelers' leadership is smart, they got to find a way to work out a long-term deal with this guy. LeVeon Bell is a top 3 running back in the National Football League. He wants to get paid like an RB number 1. And perhaps there's an argument to be made that he should. But if the Steelers are smart about this, they got to figure it out. Because this can't turn into a Kirk Cousins type of ordeal where it's franchise tag after franchise tag after franchise tag, and you just wear away your relations with that particular player. And I honestly don't even know if Redskins fans are actually sad about Kirk Cousins leaving, because it's almost like a sense that they didn't feel like they even knew him, you know, because it was Kirk Cousins, you know, perhaps going into free agency, and then perhaps not, and then perhaps he is, and all of this stuff. So LeVeon Bell, he plans on returning for the regular season, Steelers fans, so don't worry about that. But he does plan on sitting out the offseason workouts. Last headline to get through here. Muhammad Wilkerson, what is the latest on him? So he was released by the Jets after a dismal 2017 season where he got benched in Week 15 after as a result of missing a team meeting or something like that. So Muhammad Wilkerson is a free man. He visited the Packers yesterday. He has visits with the Saints and Chiefs up next. So he wrapped up a visit with the Packers. That's an interesting one at that. I think the Saints and Chiefs will be an interesting option as well. Green Bay, I think, is the most likely because Mike Pettin is the defensive coordinator out there. And Pettin, of course, worked with Wilkerson in 2011 and 2012. That's the latest with Muhammad Wilkerson. Those are your NFL headlines this morning. You're watching the Cam Rogers Show here on Chat Sports Facebook Live. I am Cam Rogers. Check me out on Twitter at Mr. Rogers99.